got a little cleaning up to do. I want to say a little. It's a really nice day. So, years ago, when one of my grandpas, was dying, he'd had dementia for a few years and didn't recognize us, and he had some incident and he was in the hospital, and my grandma had him in the hospital, and they said he couldn't think, he couldn't eat, he couldn't talk, and he hadn't for years. He'd maybe 5 years or less, it wasn't that long, he didn't remember who the heck I was when he saw me. But they're like, you better go up to the hospital and go visit him before he dies, and they're going to put him in the city rest home and let him die. So I was expecting, because everyone had told me it was just awful, and he couldn't do anything, he couldn't talk anymore, nothing, he couldn't see, he was blind. They said he was blind. So I was going to go up there with one of my brothers and my sister and go see him before he died. And I went up to the room, and the door was cracked, but it was slightly closed, and I kind of peeked around and I could see his feet. And then I stood back because I was the first one there. I stood back behind the door, and I was thinking, should I go in? Should I wait for my brother and sister? He might be sleeping. So I was standing there behind the door, kind of thinking for a minute if I should go in there. And he couldn't see me. Like I said, he was supposedly blind, and I was standing behind a door, slightly cracked. And he goes, Rosa, is that you? And I was like, what? Can he see through the door? And he remembers my name? And how does he know someone's even out here? There's nurses, all kinds of people walking by. And he called my name. And he goes, Rosa, is that you? So I was like, oh my gosh, he can see? But he would have had to have seen through the door because I was behind it. So I went in because he called my name, and he was in there, and he couldn't see out the window, and supposedly he was blind, but he acted like he could see me. It was the strangest thing. He could see me, and he knew who I was. And I hear, that people can come in and out of things intermittently, but blindness, that's kind of weird because he could see me. And he knew who I was. And he goes, what's it like outside? And it was a day like today. It was really nice, summery, early summer, maybe late June, or I can't remember exactly when he passed. Really nice day with green grass outside, and I told him, because his bed didn't face the window, and I go, oh, it's just really beautiful out there, it's wonderful, green grass, blue sky. And he goes, get me out of here. He goes, Rosa, get me out of here. I want to go home. I want to go home. And he just started begging. He goes, I want to go home. And I took his hand, and then he goes, oh my gosh, your hands are so cold. Let me warm them up. Your hands are so cold. And they were. It was just, how it's cold and gray in these hospitals. It's just, ugh. And my hands were freezing, and he's trying to warm my hands up because they're so cold. He's like, we got to get your hands warmed up. He was very coherent. And he just starts crying. He goes, Rosa, I want to go home. I want to go home. Get me out of here. And I said, Grandpa, don't worry. We'll get you out of here. You're going home soon. You're going home soon. And I said, just rest. You lay here and you just rest. You're going to be going home soon. Just rest. And he goes, Rosa, I can't rest. I can't rest until I go home and I'm free. He's like, I can't rest unless I'm working. I need to be outside working. Get me out of here. I can't rest unless I'm working. And I just said, don't worry. We'll get you out of here soon. You're going home. And then my brother and my sister came in, and we stood around talking, and Grandpa fell asleep while they were there. And he wasn't talking, he didn't see, he just fell asleep. And he did keep holding on to my hand. And then we left, and the next day I heard my grandma had taken him out to the county home and had removed all water and food from him. And it was really traumatic and hard on the family because different parts of the family were in real disagreement with this. How could you remove all food and water from a person like that? And my mom was really upset. She didn't want that to be, but everyone kept saying, oh, he can't eat, he can't drink, he can't talk, he can't see, he's good for nothing. And my grandma was tired of chasing him around town because he would get loose. And he would be found in the backyards of people reading their water meters. They'd find this old guy back there doing a check on their water meters because he was the head meter reader of the town for years. And he was very stubborn, very stubborn. They had to hide all the guns or find them. He had them hidden under floorboards. They had to sneak them all out of the house because he was one of those guys who said when he got old that he'd kill himself. He wasn't gonna go the bad way. Well, he was stuck in the county home, and I kept hearing for a couple weeks. It usually only takes 1 or 2 weeks to kind of starve and dehydrate a person. But he hung on double time. It took 2 or 3 weeks. It was very laborious. It took a long time, and he was just really fighting and stubborn. And he didn't want to go. He didn't want to let go. And I couldn't believe that this was allowed in America. My state isn't one of those states that I know of, but I guess it's common to do that. And my grandma really was done with him. And my mom kept telling me, don't go see him. This is so awful. It's so terrible. He's fighting so hard. And he's starved down to nothing. And you can't go see him like this. So I didn't. But then my brother, one of my brothers, would go in all night long. I think he got off work at like 1 or midnight or something. And he would go in and sit in the room and read the Bible and pray all night long and then sleep there until morning when other family members would come in and visit. So my brother was there every single night reading the Bible and praying with my grandpa, who wasn't a believer. And that's probably why he held on so long, because he didn't know. This was his home. He loved this earth so much. This really was his home. He loved it. Maybe, I don't know if anyone loved this land and this earth the way my grandpa did, or worked so hard. He was probably one of the hardest working people you ever met. He was an amazing man. And come to find out later on, near the end of his life, they found out this workaholic had been suffering in pain. He had migraines all the time, and he would somehow work through them. And I get migraines, and it's impossible. It's like a disability. The willpower on this man. They found out near the end of his life, something he hadn't known, that he had a plugged heart valve. He had a heart defect, so that his heart had probably not been working his entire life. So this man, his willpower was amazing. And his dad had died really sudden and young, logging. So it's amazing my grandpa made it as long as he did. I think he was in his 80s. So he was just really struggling and dying, and my brother finally called me and he said, you really should come down and see Grandpa. He's going to go any day now. And I said, Mom has told me, no, you can't. She was just like panicked, just in a panic, repulsed, and like it was a horror movie to her. And he's like, Rosa, you need to come down here. And I said, Mom said I can't. She said it's just too awful to see and I'll be traumatized. And he's like, Rosa, the little bit of pain and trauma you go through is nothing compared to what he's going through. Come and see him. You're fine. You're not going through this. It's nothing compared. And I thought, I really love that. I was like, thank you, Marty, for some sanity like that and some reality. You're right. So I was going to go down and see him the next day. And just as I was going to go down and see my grandpa, I get a phone call. I had the keys in my hand. I was about ready to walk out the door. I get a call and they say, Grandpa's dead. He passed. Oh, and then the night before, I forgot about that. We'd all been up, mysteriously. Different parts of my family and my cousins had all been up at the exact same time and awakened at the same exact time. It was like around 1 or 2 in the morning or something. It was so sudden. I can't remember. One of them had a dream about something. At the exact same time, my brother was in the room at the exact same time, and he said something had changed. He was reading the Bible and praying, and something had changed. And he had just walked into the room, and he was there spending the night. And I was at home, and it was like I got a call. I started crying, and I felt this extreme darkness and pain and loneliness, like a dark tunnel. And I knew it was my grandpa. And I knew he was laboring, and that he was on the way to passing, and his struggle, you could just feel it. It was like he had been thrust out into the darkness. He wasn't able to get into heaven right away, and he didn't know what it was, so he was kind of fighting for some reason. And he was alone. He was cast into some kind of utter dark loneliness, and he couldn't hear or see anything. I could just feel this. And I said, you know what? I'm going to sing. I'm just going to sing. And so I got out the only Irish song I know. She Moves Through the Fair. And I played even worse than I do now. And I opened the window upstairs in my secret sanctorum room that I had. And I got the guitar and I started practicing She Moves Through the Fair, because it's Irish, and he was very, very Irish. And I was like, I'm going to sing, because I can hear him. I hear him, and I know the way to go. And if he can hear me and knows that someone hears him and knows, he won't feel as alone. And I will get him through this tunnel because he can follow the light and he can follow the singing. And he's going to know it's for him. And his spirit will hear it. Even though I'm not near him, he's going to hear this. And he will be passed through this. It was like giving birth. It was a labor. Very dark, sad labor. And then suddenly, after about an hour, I just felt this peace. It felt good. And I was like, I think he heard it. I think he's made it through. And come to find out, like the next day, that at least 3 of us, it was all the grandkids. So me and my cousins, several of us, identical same time in the middle of the night. We'd been praying, singing, and just really there working on him. Because his grandkids loved him. We loved him because his language, like we just loved him. God damn it, son of a bitch. Like we loved that. And that's how he talked. God damn it, son of a bitch. The most moral man ever. And he didn't have God. Because when you're Christian, a lot of times you're less moral. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. And we all know it. So, we get in there. Everyone gathers we go to my grandma's because the hospital, the nurse, when she announced and called and said that Grandpa had died, she said, don't come in here. We're going to take the body off. You don't want to see him because he went through so much hell. His face is really contorted and bitter. And you don't want to remember him this way because it's contorted and bitter and ugly. And she said, don't come in. He's passed. And you don't want that face to be his last memory. So we're standing around, gathering on Grandma's lawn. And it's about an hour after Grandpa has died. And the nurse calls on the phone. And she says, she changes her mind. She goes, you better get down here. You have to come down here and you have to see this. She's like, this hardly ever happens with these kind of really painful, long, drawn out, bitter deaths. She's like, you better get down here and see him before the body is taken off. Because his face has changed so much. And I've never seen anything like it before. It is lovely. She said, he looks so happy and at peace and so good. She said, you need to come down here and see this. So this is your last memory of him because he looks so at peace. So Grandma and my mom and my uncle was coming in later, and my brother Marty. We all walk in the room and he's laying there. His mouth is a little bit open and he's just really skinny. And he really was. He looked really good. He looked good. But the thing I noticed, I felt a real peace and calm. And I think my brother Marty did. And me and Marty were touching him, I touched his hands and his face and his little feet. And my mom, the thing I noticed is when she walked in the room, she jumped back in horror and was cowering and acting like this was the worst thing she'd ever seen. And the minute she jumped back and was just insulting that body, I felt a jolt, like a fear in the room coming from this upper corner, hovering above the bed in this upper corner. And I was like, oh shit. And I wanted to almost slap my mom, like, how dare you do this? I was like, he's still here. He sees you and he hasn't quite comprehended what happened, Mom. And you just scared him because he's looking down and he wasn't ashamed of being dead until you did that. because there's no bigger shame than death. I could feel him. He was there in the room, in the corner, watching us. He was still hovering in the room, and he felt to me like he was about 5 years old, and he'd become a very innocent, cute, playful little boy. And he didn't know what had happened. All the bad things and negativity had been removed, and he was this little boy, still hovering, and didn't know what had happened until my mom freaked out and was like cowering and trying to run out of the room. And then he saw, oh, I'm dirty. I'm shameful. I'm dead. And you could tell he couldn't comprehend. Why can't you see me? I'm here. And you could just feel it. He was watching us all around his body, looking at him and sitting there and looking at all of our reactions and sensing everything really clearly. And it wasn't until he saw us all gathered around looking, and he's probably watching us from above, that's what it felt, going, oh, oh, that's me. I'm gone. I'm dead. And I actually think my grandpa probably had the longest death and passing through of anyone. So he had passed through the hard part, but God, I believe, let him stay around a lot longer than normal. Because my grandpa loves this earth. This is heaven to him. So I think he was there at the funeral. I really do. Several of us grandkids, the whole funeral was done by the family. One of my uncles was a pastor, and then several of us grandkids sang songs, and my sister wanted to throw in at the very last minute In the Highways and the Hedges, and my brother thought that was so disrespectful because he was playing guitar for us. And we were like, well, we're going to do it without your guitar then. We're just going to do the song because it's about working. I'll be somewhere a-working, I'll be somewhere a-working. So we were like, no, it's a fun, childish song. It's old-fashioned, just like Grandpa likes, and it's about working, and he was always working. Oh, yes, I think one of my family members, I can't remember who, maybe my sister, had a dream that night when he died of him out with his wheelbarrow, his blue wheelbarrow, which I have. I can't remember how I ended up with the blue wheelbarrow. I think Grandma was like, just take this or something. I don't know. I think it's all I have of his, other than his jeans. And that song, that I think my grandpa probably really approved it, and that after we sang it, the kids loved that. That was their favorite thing. They were so surprised to go to a funeral and were singing about working for our Lord. It was so Grandpa. And then at the graveyard there was the military people who they have the cannons and the salute and all that, because he was a war veteran. And that was really fun to have them way up there at this pioneer cemetery, just out in the middle of nowhere, dry and dusty. And then you have your the whole military send off. And but I've been thinking about work and my grandpa's. They're probably two of the most special people I've ever met. I would consider my other grandpa, my paternal one, possibly my best friend on earth that I've ever had. And another weird thing is they don't feel dead to me. There's people who are alive who are more dead. These guys are still out there. They're still working. I don't think they're done. But I'm thinking about work a lot because I wish I could, but maybe I have to find a way. I wish there was a way that work paid. I've never in my life had to deal with paying to work. This is one of the first times in my life where I'm really, really thinking about work and economy because it's changed up so much. And I really understand the desperation, and I understand why people are dropping out, because I have. And it's because you have to pay to work. Work isn't paying anymore. The more you work, the less you're going to make. Something's really almost cursed and messed up. So I'm really thinking about economics and working. All right, happy birthday.